when I got my PhD in '89, there still weren't any open lesbians who had gotten tenure in the field of psychology. So it's not like looking for an academic job was top on my list of things to do. And I've sort of backed into being an academic and more taught adjunct, and really, in fact, I didn't take my first full-time academic job until 2003.
Wow.
And even then, I picked an institution that's a fairly atypical institution, because I have some ambivalence about academia. And really the ambivalence comes from that sort of class-conscious perspective. I think one of the functions that academia serves in our society is to perpetuate the myth of the meritocracy. You know, people get to go to places like Stanford and Yale and Princeton and Harvard and, you know, elite schools, and get their PhDs from elite programs because they're the smart ones, right? And the truth of the matter is that, you know, for the people from poor and working class and ethnic minority backgrounds who get to go to those schools, they do get to go to those schools because they're really smart and they work really hard. Even though there are lots of other really smart people who work really hard from those communities who don't get in, certainly only really smart, really hard-working people from poor and working class and communities of color, you know, get into those places. But there's lots of other people, particularly men and particularly white people and particularly people who come from families of privilege, who get into those institutions not because they're really smart or work really hard, but because they're really privileged. And the whole system functions to get us to buy into the belief that if you've got a degree from one of the fancy schools, you know, that means that you deserved it. And that if you conversely don't have a degree from one of those fancy schools, it's because you're not smart and you didn't deserve it. And I would watch that play out on the shop floor in a totally different way. Because I'd watch the guys, actually I watched the people who came in at the same time I came into the shop, who were working really hard to make supervisor. And the truth of the matter is that nobody made supervisor who didn't work really hard and wasn't really good at it. But it was also true that for everyone who made it because their sister was dating, you know, somebody who was a supervisor, or they happened to go to the church that the plant manager went to, or some other serendipitous kind of thing, there were 25 other people who worked just as hard, but they didn't get that opportunity. And so it really was a visceral education in the way that the myth of the meritocracy operates.